Hey everybody, it's Richard Milligan with 4C Recruiting here. This presentation is going to be over the 4 stages of the Visioneer presentation. So to establish the mindset around this, going into the Visioneer presentation, you should have already engaged the candidate in some sort of conversation. Typically, that would be a phone conversation where you're teeing up a face-to-face. You may do this through LinkedIn, or you've teed up a phone call for the individual. The dynamics of this may be different depending upon whether you're an area manager or a regional manager or a branch manager, where you may be in a different market presenting to someone over the phone, or where you may be in that market presenting to them face to face. But the presentation is going to look the same. Okay? So here are the 4 stages of the Visioneer presentation. Let me stop before we go into these and just say, if you don't have a clear vision that you can already articulate, then you need to stop and you need to do that. Okay? If your presentation currently exists around products, around compensation, marketing tools, CRMs, corporate culture, those are the things that you're leading with. You really need to stop here and create a Visioneer presentation. This would be your vision. You need to be able to articulate that very clearly to a recruit. So if you can't do that, stop and do that here. Now, assuming that you have that completed, then there's 4 pieces to this. The first part is figuring out your recruit's why. And you'll spend the first part of the meeting doing that. Now, I have found in my experience that the average Visioneer presentation from meeting the recruit all the way through the end takes up anywhere from an hour to an hour and 15 minutes. That's a good timeline for that. So you'll spend the first 20 to 30 minutes of this meeting figuring out your recruit's why. Okay, we'll talk about that in a second. The second part, you want to get clarity and confirmation on their why. The third part will be you actually presenting your vision. And the last part will be creating alignment with their why and your vision. The power is in creating alignment. So many times, most people are simply presenting. They're not doing they're not getting to the recruit's why. They're definitely not getting clarity and confirmation on that why, and they're not creating alignment with their vision and the recruit's why. And that's why a lot of times the presentations that are made don't have any momentum and don't lead to any powerful next steps. I'll close this presentation with an idea around a powerful next step, because you should be creating next steps as well. Okay, so stage 1 of the Visioneer presentation is figuring out your recruit's why. Now, you do this through asking great questions. I've given an example of this here on this screen as bullet points, but no, as long as your questions are leading to a place where you're figuring out what motivates the recruit, why they're in the business, and what they see them getting from the business and extending beyond the business. So if you spend any time with me, you would know that my why is my family. Okay, so think about that. A lot of the times you're going to be presenting to people who are going to have whys that are a spouse or a family, maybe their contribution outside of work to nonprofits or to other people. It could be a number of things. But you need to have some pre-identified questions that lead you to this. Okay, great questions are going to be what gets you to a position to understand what is it that motivates this individual. Okay? Your Visioneer presentation is not about you making a great sales presentation using your woo or your salesmanship to get them to a place where they're excited and hyped about what it is, these tools that you're offering. Your Visioneer presentation is calling a person into something much larger, calling them into something that's bigger than where they are today. You'll hear me use the terminology attractive leader a lot if you spend any time around me. This all begins with being an attractive leader, and the attractive leader has a very clear vision, can articulate that vision, and then lives in accordance with that vision. Those are the 3 things that every attractive leader has. So in getting to this recruit's why, we're going to ask questions that lead them to a place where, if they didn't already have clarity around why they're in the business, They're going to get clarity because we're going to ask them questions. Well, why did you get into the mortgage business? What do you love most about the mortgage business? What are your goals in this business? What do you do outside of work? If you could do anything outside of work, what would it be? What is the most important thing to you in life, not just in business? What are some of the things that you love doing outside of work? And then what we're doing is we're peeling back the layers to the candidate, layers to the recruit. And a lot of times you're going to have to ask good follow-up questions. If you ask somebody, what is the most important thing to you outside of work, and I responded with family, then you should have, if they don't elaborate on that, you need to have a good follow-up question. What is it about family that's most important to you? Talk to me about, your family structure. What do you guys do as a family outside of work, right? I want to get to the heart of this individual. Follow-up questions are going to be key here. Now, I find that most attractive leaders don't start as being real good in the space of asking questions. So you would be wise to have some pre-formulated questions going into this and not try to wing it. Again, recruiting is an art and a science together. So the science of this is you need to understand that you have to get to the bottom of what is the recruit's why. The art of this is how are you going to shape these questions to get to that. And so as long as you're getting to that, I don't really care about the methodology as long as you're staying within the boundaries of what your HR department would consider as a legal question. Okay? So follow-up questions are going to get you to that. Now, once you're at a place where you're able to get clarity for yourself around their why, then what I want you to do is I want you to summarize what you just heard. Okay, we're going to ask for agreement on this, and this is so critical, and very, very, very few people do this. Okay, and here's why it's critical. A lot of times we hear things through our own lens, and not everyone is a natural good listener. And so there is the science to this is, yeah, you do have to be able to get clarity and confirmation on their why, because we're going to use this at the end of our Visioneer presentation. The art to this is being able to listen and to be able to interpret where maybe they're not saying it very clearly, getting to a place where you can regurgitate that clearly and then ask for agreement on that. So in the case where I said my why was my family, in summarizing this, you would get to a place at the end of you getting clarity and getting to know me and building a relationship with me through conversation. Then you would say, Richard, let me just pause for a moment and make sure that I understand what you said in terms of what's your why? Like, why are you in this business? What is it that motivates you and drives you? And what I heard you say is that your family is that one thing for you that really motivates you. Did I hear you correctly on that? Is there anything else there that you would add that you would say, this is my motivating factor, this is my why? You want to get agreement. Okay, so there's a lot of ways to get to agreement. You could say, would you agree that? That's one way to do it. There are other ways to do that, but make sure you have agreement before you proceed. And here is the reason for this. Many times we won't hear the actual why. We'll hear a part of it, or there could be multiple things here that are what's driving them in what they do, and we want to make sure we get to the bottom of that because at the end of the presentation, my presentation, I'm going to create alignment. And in where you create alignment in your vision and their why, the power is that you will get very powerful next steps by doing this. Okay? So understand, we're going to get to a place where we're going to summarize what we've heard, we're going to ask for agreement, we're going to get confirmation before we proceed. Once we have confirmation, we'll go to stage 3. This is presenting your vision. Okay? Now, you can simply do it like this, right? I just summarized your why, and in the case we just said, Richard, if I heard you correctly, your family is really the driving, force in your business, why you want to be successful. That is ultimately your why, what you're doing. Did I hear you correctly? And I would say, yes, that's absolutely it. You're spot on. The transition to that is, well, now that I understand your why, let me tell you a little bit about myself. Okay? And then you're going to go into your presentation. Now, your presentation, this isn't about the actual presentation piece. What this is about is the 4 stages in the actual meeting. So, but what I want you to understand is this. You have to move to right brain recruiting. That's incorporating heart over head. Okay, most people that I see present are presenting with left brain vision. Left brain vision is, let's talk about how awesome our company is from the perspective of our products, our pricing, our compensation, our marketing, these things, our technology, all of those are left brain vision. Right brain vision is what moves people. If you want a good context of this, just go to YouTube and watch the piece from Braveheart that has him riding up on the scene, the battle scene in the movie Braveheart. William Wallace arrives for the first time on a battle scene, and there are two lords on this battle scene that are currently bantering a bit with these Scottish peasants as to why they're leaving the battle scene. And they're saying, we're not here to die for you. We're not here to give up our life so that you can have more of whatever this is, more land, more titles, more whatever. And they begin to leave. And then William Wallace rides up on the scene and he calls them into something bigger. Okay, so there are different parts to the vision, which is your vision should incorporate your core values, your core convictions. It should have things like these big goals that, you set, which are, we're going to go to top 10 and purchase market share over the next 3 years. And by the end of 7 years, we're going to be number 2 in market share. Those are big. You're casting big vision, and then you're going to explain to me how we're going to do that. And if you can bring me along in that and get me excited about that, then you're moving me in the right direction with my heart. If you get caught in left brain recruiting, which is vetting, you will lose 99% of the time. Okay? And if you are in that 1% of the companies that have everything, great products, great marketing, great technology, great everything, great compensation, all of those things, great leadership, then you may win the left brain battle. But the odds are that the majority of the mortgage industry is going to be caught in the middle. And in the middle is where you're trying to win the heart of the recruit, not the head of the recruit. Okay? So how you do this is through storytelling. Now, some of you are probably better storytellers than others. It's not something that comes natural to everybody. So if you're not a great storyteller, I would encourage you to focus some energy and effort on becoming a better storyteller. Storytelling there's really 3 parts to storytelling. I call it the 3X structure. It's an easy way to remember it. It's stories that are told in the format of try, fail, and overcome. Okay, most of us are great storytellers in the overcome, but we leave out where we tried and failed. Because for whatever reason, we think that the conflict or the struggle is something that doesn't need to be talked about. And whether that is because, we believe that people will see us through a different lens of success, or whether that's just we feel like it's not an interesting or an important component. Whatever it is, we tend to leave out the try and the fail. But human beings live through story. So, and story in general typically comes through, great stories typically come through perseverance. Great stories come through conflict. They come through the struggle. So where you can tell a story, where there was a struggle, where there was a try and a fail, then you're bringing people into a very powerful story. So that's how I would measure those. Do I have try? Do I have fail? Do I have conflict? Do I have struggle? If I do, and then I have the overcome, then it's a powerful story, and you could be sharing that. Now, I love to teach what I call anchor stories. So anchor stories are ones that you just have them plotted into your presentation. Have 3 or 4 anchor stories. You could have one large story that you're telling the story of you as the leader and the story of the organization and why you're here and what are your core values and what are your convictions and what are your big goals. You could tell that through one larger story if you wanted to. The story of how you came to being in the business, the story of how you came upon being with this organization, the story of how you've been building your branch or your brand or your teams. All of that you can do through the lens of story, or you can do this through individualized stories. And in that case, then you have multiple anchor stories. But this should be something that is replicatable. When you're done with your vision, it's something you should be able to memorize and present again and again and again. There is a lot of value in having a powerful presentation. This is where you should spend a lot of effort and energy. You should script it out, bullet point it out, memorize it, record it, listen to it. The ones that do that over the ones that say, nah, I'm going to wing it. The ones that actually perfect their presentation will win 99 times out of 100 over the one who does not. Okay, so this is something, recruiting is probably the biggest area of growth, the biggest opportunity for growth for most what I call recruiting leaders. Those are the branch managers, area managers, regional managers, VPs, sometimes even company presidents. This is the largest opportunity for growth because they're just not doing it right. They're really talking about these are the things that the organization does, not the things that the organization represents. Okay? So storytell your vision with anchor stories, and that will get you through get you through casting your vision. Okay? And then stage 4 is you create alignment. Right? So I know your why. I've got an agreement on your why. I've now presented my vision to you, my core values. I've talked about, what we represent, what are our core convictions, what's my vision, what are our big goals. Now we're getting to a place where I'm going to bring all of this together. And how we bring all this together is we connect my vision with their why. Now this may take some of you time to get to a place where you can do this well, because you're taking something that was done maybe 30 minutes earlier, and now you're bringing it back around. So, and you're aligning it with what you just said. What I would encourage you to do is to take notes. Even ask for permission to take notes from your recruit. Do you mind if I take a few notes while you talk? Bullet point out the key thoughts that you come up with. When you summarize their why, create a bullet point there. Go back to that. This is the moment where if one part of your vision was, for example, we are all about incorporating family and fun into what we do. That could be an example of something is part of your vision. We believe that your work family and outside family should be mingled. We constantly are doing company picnics. We're constantly having fun Friday at our office. We're, as a team, always going and doing things together. We have a ping pong table and a pool table and whatever that is in our office. We represent family and fun, and we weave those together. If Richard Milligan was the guy that you were recruiting and my why was my family, pretty easy to connect the dots on your vision and my vision, and you would say something simply along the lines of, now that I've shared my vision with you, I just want to go back and think about kind of where you are and what's your driving focus to be in this business. And if I remember you correctly, Richard, you said that your family was a big component to that. And I would say, yeah, you're right. Well, what I would tell you is this, is that since part of our vision is that we want to incorporate family and fun into what we do here at the office, here's how I would see this connecting with you. And you would say something along the lines of, imagine you having, right, I've given 3 statements here, which are future-pacing statements. Imagine you having a company that you work for who's completely in alignment with what your personal belief is, that family should come before work. If it's, for example, my personal belief is something completely different, I could use these statements of, what kind of results could you get if? What if you, and fill in the blank. It could be anything, but you have to take your vision and figure out for the candidate, for the recruit, how do we align those? Because when they came into this meeting, they typically weren't coming into this meeting looking for a job, looking for a next opportunity. Most times you're meeting with a cold candidate who you have gotten to a place where they'll say, yes, I'll meet with you. So they see themselves on one hand, in the left hand, and you're over here on the right hand. There's a lot of space in between. And what you have to do is you have to push those two together, and you have to create a union. You have to create unity. You have to create this synergy between the two of them. And they may not see that. So the important piece of this is you're going to help them have clarity, okay, in why they're in this business and why you're in this business, what they're trying to accomplish through this business and what you're trying to accomplish through this business. And you're aligning those. Okay, I've seen leaders do this through some simple methodology of, a statement which would be, my dream and my vision is to help others accomplish their dream and their vision. And so your dream, your vision is to do X. And how that aligns with my dream and my vision from what I just told you is this. Okay? So it doesn't have to be overly complicated. Don't get too bogged down in this, but just understand you may need to practice this. You may need to have somebody, you could go through your office and you could have each one of your loan officers, or if you're an area or regional, have each one of your branch managers write down their why on a piece of paper, and then figure out with those, how would I create alignment with my own vision, and then practice it. Okay? Now, once you've gained agreement, once you have aligned your vision with their why, you're going to gain agreement on a next step. Okay, so they're powerful next steps create a lot of momentum. So this is a space I see a lot of managers that are uncomfortable. A lot of leaders are uncomfortable creating a powerful next step. Okay, so immediately you get to the end of this, you're going to have identified someone as not being a fit, and if they're not a fit, you're not going to create alignment with your vision. Okay, if they're a great fit, and they're going to fit into two categories, either hot or cold. Hot meaning I believe I can move them quickly through a process, or cold meaning this is going to take time, and so I'm going to have to pursue them passively beyond this. Okay, once you identify the recruit falling into one of those three categories, create a powerful next step for the great fit hot. And if you believe that you can move to a great fit cold, or even try and move a great fit cold to a powerful next step, one of the best next steps that I've ever been able to create is the local site visit. That just means that from this meeting, you're going to come meet me in my office. Okay, and because that's a controlled environment that I can create whatever I want to create another very powerful high for you to give me more momentum. That's the most powerful thing that I can do with you. So a lot of times in this moment, even saying, if you're 1% intrigued, I would love to have you come back to my office. I'd love to have you meet with whoever that is, my lead processor, my head operations person, with my co-branch manager, have you meet with my branch manager, have you meet with one of my top loan officers. There's a lot of reasons why you can get someone to move to your office with a next step. Figure out what that is, and then move towards that. Okay. I'll give you a nugget here. Here's a really great end of this Visioneer presentation. Here's a great closing piece that you should be doing, and that is asking for a home address. So if I get to the end of this Visioneer presentation, we've met face to face, or I've met you over the phone, I found out your why, I've gone through these 4 steps, and I get to the end, and I don't feel like there's no way that we're moving you to anything like a local site visit. What I am for sure going to ask for in every case, in every situation, is I'm going to ask for your home address. And the reason I ask for your home address is simply this, is that now I can continue a very passive conversation with me as the attractive leader with your home. I can FedEx you something. I can FedEx you a book. I can send you a Christmas card. I can, if I wanted to send you on a Friday late afternoon a box of Chicago-style pizzas just to say, hey, or I saw that it was your anniversary, I wanted to send you a card with a gift card to a restaurant, or fill in the blanks. There's a lot of things you can do with the home address. What this does is it continues the conversation with the spouse. And it's such a critical piece. I won't spend time talking about this now, but just understand that you should be doing that, and then extending beyond getting that to after this face-to-face, sending a thank you, sending them something like a book. A book is the best business card you can have, and continuing the conversation through that. Okay, so there's a lot of information here. Feel free to go back through this again and again. This is an infographic that I've created kind of around recruiting. I want to share this with you here, because while my belief is that recruiting is simple when you understand that the little things are the big things. When you understand there has to be a system with recruiting. There is no training. I have not found any training that incorporates large process systems and all-encompassing recruiting training. There's some training out there in the mortgage business that's very what I call tactics driven. Let's figure out how to identify top talent. Let's figure out how we connect with them. Let's figure out the scripting that we use for that. But there's nothing that really is all-encompassing, okay? So when I'm thinking all-encompassing, I'm thinking something that starts at the very beginning from when I'm identifying the talent. It takes me all the way through this process that includes everything from LinkedIn to a whiteboard CRM to developing my vision, to understanding what stories I should be using, to creating a whiteboard workflow CRM, to actually utilizing a recruiting scorecard and measuring what I'm doing on an ongoing basis. Okay, there's nothing that does that. My Recruiting Made Simple system is something that does that. So if you feel like you need more coaching or need more help, you can reach me through LinkedIn. You can also reach me directly through my email, which is rmilligan@4crecruiting.com. And if you have any questions or if I can help you further in any of these areas, let me know. With that said, that is the end of this presentation. Thanks so much.